thing I love about when we come together like this is we know that we can't intellectually understand what the true self is. It's not possible. Because the thing that's trying to understand it is the very thing that thinks it's separate from it, right? The intellect. So the only way we can really know the true self is to experience it in a state of feeling. And to me, that's what happens when we come together, like that silence we had this morning. We're experiencing the true self. That's the only way you can become educated about the true nature of who you are, of who and what you are on the inside, is in that feeling. And so as the school has evolved over time, I begin to see more and more that that's basically it, because the world being what the world is, you know, there will be orthodoxy and dogma that will form around the principles. It's already happening, you know. And I used to think that was such a terrible thing, you know. But now I realize it's just the way it is. And that's okay, because everybody who really comes close to the flame with the principles experiences a feeling. And that feeling is their true self, right? And when they go out to share with the world, that's what they have to share. And that's what will keep the power in it going out in a bigger way, is that enough people will have that deep understanding of their own true nature and the true nature of the principles. That's what will keep it powerful. We had a dear friend we worked with for many years in Florida. And he was a Southerner, a true Southern gentleman. And we started to explore this idea of depth is what keeps it alive, right? Understanding is what keeps it alive. And he said this saying one time, and I'll never forget it. He said, would you rather be a mile wide and an inch deep, or an inch wide and a mile deep? Isn't that cool? And to me, that's how we keep it truly alive in the world. And that way we don't have to worry about a little bit of dogma here and there, or a little bit of orthodoxy here and there. It's going to happen. But as long as that core is there, as long as there's this core of people that have been touched deeply inside, it'll be alive. Sid's vision will be alive. And even when we, and I have myself, wander away from that and get in our heads, it's okay too, because we'll always come back to that feeling, because it's the truest thing we've ever experienced. And everybody, no matter what goes on in the next little while, or where they go, or how they wander, or how much they get into whatever they do, at some point they'll stand still sometime, and they will remember that feeling. And they will know that it's their true north. They will know that it's the deepest and truest thing they've ever experienced. So in that way, the vision just is kept beautifully alive. And that's really all this school is for, is to do whatever we can to encourage that depth, that level of feeling, right? And even saying that, Elsie and I sitting here, for instance, it's really secondhand Rose and secondhand Joe. You know? Because if you look at the people who've moved the world through history, there was always somebody to come along and create dogma or orthodoxy from what they said, in good intentions, trying to share something powerful that they'd seen. That's the story of mankind in terms of when truth comes, right? When it enters the world. There's a difference this time, though. And the difference is two things. One is an indivisible set of principles that really, if you continue to look at them, you begin to see they are principles. Principles that are the pinpoint where nothing becomes something. Principles that are the place where the world is actually created on a moment-to-moment basis. Now that's pretty amazing that those principles have been illuminated, right? And the second thing that makes it really different this time around is that Sid's words were recorded and he wrote his books, right? Then we can gently get lost in orthodoxy and whatever, you know, in our heads. But those things, that truth will always be there. And all we have to do is go back to them over and over again, you know. And I'm not even talking about the words, I'm talking about the feeling that lies in those materials. And when I say we're secondhand Rose and secondhand Joe, all I mean is we have recordings and books that were written from and spoken from that incredible place of knowing, that place that Sid considered himself incredibly privileged to have touched in his enlightenment experience. Nobody around now can talk from that place. Now, that's not to say that we haven't been given beautiful gifts to share and create beautiful feelings with our clients and our talks. It's wonderful. But those materials are a huge part. They are his legacy to the world. They are. I was really hit when Mara was talking yesterday. When Mara talked about someday. Because I've been in someday for a long time over Sid's materials. And I have no answers. Honestly, I don't know what could be different. I just know it could be different. And we were really touched. Jan and I were in Italy a while ago. And we had a room full of beautiful professionals, doctors, therapists, people trying to help the world. And they had many beautiful books written by other people, some of them that we know interpreted into Italian. And that was wonderful. It gave them something. But to be honest, I was saddened because they were telling us we can't listen to Sid and we don't have his books. You know, and it just, here's this incredible group of people, and I thought, man, they should have that. They should be able to hear it firsthand like we did. And I don't mean to get on a soapbox about it. I just know that it was a big part of Sid's dream that before he passed. It was the biggest part of his dream. He asked people to do what they could to get his books out. You know, to form organizations if they had to get his books out. And I know there are people working hard on it too. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But this morning I remembered a moment with Sid. Because Jan and I were talking about it. Jan was just so lovely talking about Sid's materials again. And I remembered this experience. I was in a pretty strong state of denial at the end when Sid was dying. You know, I really didn't want to accept it, you know. And so one of the things I did was bring him a bunch of rubber stretchies to stretch his legs and exercise so that he could keep going. And this is really near the end, you know. So anyway, I was trying to get him to hold these rubber things and stretch his legs, and he was doing it, and I think he was doing it just to, you know, ease it for me. And then he reached out and grabbed my arm and he said, "It's the books, Chip. It's the books." And it really went right through me. And many times in his talks, he said, all of you will do so much, but if my books were throughout the world, the level of consciousness of the world would shift in a flash. Right? So I don't know why I feel like talking about this morning, but I do. You know? And I don't even know what we can do, except for put the thought out there that that should change at some point. And with all of our intelligence and all of our influence and all of our connections, that maybe someday could come sooner than I've been thinking.